So the third episode of Willow aired yesterday, and I watched the first episode with Cris last night. So I'm ahead of things. I'm staying current. She usually watches things a week or so after the fact, just when she has free time in her schedule. And then this morning I was talking about the third episode with my brother, and I keep coming back to, for me, this third episode is like one of the most adventurous things I've seen in a long time in terms of it was just good storytelling and it was just a lot of fun. I think one of the things I like the most about watching a show like Willow is because we don't have a lot of established characters. So there's a lot of room for them to take new characters, which they have done, and play around with them and create new stories within a world that has some of a setting, and has been fleshed out a little bit, but it allows them to create new stories and take characters in different directions. One of my favorite components of this episode was the fact that Willow, in his older age, is conserving his energy. He doesn't have an infinite amount of magic, so he has to hold on to it for the battle that's to come. And he expresses that concern during this episode. And there's this component where the younger characters are questioning why he doesn't ever seem to do anything. He just seems to be a feeble old Nelwyn who doesn't use magic. And then when push comes to shove, and as it does, and I'm not going to spoil things here. Watch my review of the episode if you want to learn more about the events that trigger this. But at one point during the episode 3, he is pushed to using his magic because of situations. And when he does, it's extremely powerful and it leaves everyone sort of in awe of what he can do. But it drains him and it is very, very painful for him to do so. And he's terrified of using that power because he has these visions of what is going to happen in the future and what is Elora Danan is going to come up against and how he needs to be able to help her with that battle. So I think it's a very good sort of insight into the internal struggles of the main character of the series, Willow, while also showing how these younger characters are doubting him because he's not showing any power. And this is something that I think is extremely relevant to any sort of setting where you've got the younger kids, the younger generation, who look at the older person and being like, well, you don't seem to be doing anything that cool. Like, you were maybe a big deal once upon a time, but now you're old and washed up. Like, I'm the new thing. Like, I'm the hot stuff. Like, you're just some forgotten old relic. And then every once in a while, the old dog has to come pull out, the big sticks and show the little runts how it's done. And I think that it's done in a very good way, and it also kind of shows, in my mind, the power of good storytelling because it's not always easy mode for everyone. That's something that I really appreciated about the Obi-Wan show, which I know there are, you know, I'm not even going to call them fans. I'm going to say the toxic fan base, the toxic Star Wars anti-fans who went around with the hashtag not my Obi-Wan, claiming that, oh, Obi-Wan was never this weak little bitch. He was always the most powerful Jedi. There's no way he wouldn't be able to use the Force. There's no way he'd be this feeble old man. And I'm like, you're not understanding the storytelling that's going on here, because you have a man here who is broken. He single-handedly thinks he's responsible for the falling of the Jedi Order, all of his friends getting killed, all the younglings getting killed, having to kill his best friend, and the only reason he hasn't committed suicide at this point is because he has to watch over young Luke. And so he has, put himself out in the middle of the desert and cut himself off from the Force completely. He's not touching that power. He's been disconnected for a decade, and he's a broken shell of what he once was. And I think looking at the Willow show, Willow is very much in the same position in that he is he's definitely cutting himself off from that part of his power because he needs to save his strength for the battle that's yet to come. I also love where this episode left us. It's a cliffhanger episode, and it was phenomenal. Also, from a storytelling perspective, there's a fight sequence that happens not in the beginning of the episode. There's another fight sequence that happens towards the end where we start getting some very tastefully done slow motion shots. And it's not slow motion of the combat per se, but it's like there's this moment where the music starts to pick up and there's this long shot along the length of a sword blade as the music is starting to kick up a notch. And it's just the way that does, and then we get a close up of another character and then another close up, and you're just like, it's all sort of in slow motion, and you see everyone is preparing for this action-packed battle sequence that it's about to happen, and it's full of VFX and other stuff. And just the pacing felt very good. Overall, I'm extremely pleased with where they have been taking the Willow show so far, and from my mind, this is what is for Cris and I, and that's the most important thing. I mean, it's Cris and I, we don't have kids, but my brother has kids. So it's Cris, myself, my brother, we watch with our niece and nephew, and that circle is kind of who we ping off of and say, did you like this? Did you like this? Well, let's watch this and see what we think about that. And we're all enjoying all of these shows, and Willow in particular is proving to be extremely enjoyable because it has that childlike action, that childlike humor, that childlike. It's a children's show. There are some adult moments, but for the most part, it's a children's show for those of us who still have an inner child that is alive and well and who hasn't been jaded and killed because we've refused to water those plants. I have kept my inner child's garden alive and flourishing, and I feel desperately sorry for those of you who haven't kept your inner child alive and well and who have allowed that inner child to die because that's sad and grumpy, and it's hard to go through life if everything you look at is bad and jaded and you can't get any enjoyment out of anything because you just want to rave and rant about how culture war. It's okay. I have tissues for those of you who are like that. In the meantime, the rest of us who enjoy good storytelling, who have kept our children alive and well inside of us, I'm loving Willow. I think this is great storytelling, and this is the younger Kasdan, who I don't think he's done a lot outside of. I'm gonna look him up real quick. Um, it is. No, that's the original one. Dun, dun, dun. Jonathan Kasdan is his name. What has he worked on before? I'm very curious. Freaks and Geeks, Dawson's Creek, Land of the Women, The First Time, Roadies, Solo, A Star Wars Story, and then Willow and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. He's also done a little bit of acting, but he's basically he's been doing some. His father was Lawrence Kasdan, is Lawrence Kasdan, and I think that growing up under someone like that gives you a great um, sort of sounding board to know what works and what doesn't work in terms of good storytelling. And he's been doing it very well in my mind. I also loved Solo: A Star Wars Story, which he worked on as a writer and co-producer. And I know some people didn't like it. Whatever, they can. Again, inner children have died with those people. Um, so he's doing a good job of writing on this show, and I'm very, very, very entertained. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day is that I'm entertained. I don't have a lot to say negative about this show so far, other than yeah, there have been some tropes, but I don't care. It's predictable, fun fantasy stuff, and sometimes that's all I want. Sometimes I just want a fast food burger. I don't need gourmet steak every time. Sometimes I just want a nice, quick snack, and that's what Willow is for me. It's a nice, quick snack. It's fun. It's fast paced. It's action packed. It's got good, quirky dialogue. I laughed. I cried. Had a lot of fun. Just wanted to drop another video and say positivity for Willow. I really liked episode 3. Hopefully you did as well. Looking forward to next week. And I'm going to be trying to watch. The unfortunate thing is Cris has to go today and tomorrow. She's got a wedding she's got to deal with for her niece, and she's got to prepare the meals and everything else. So probably won't be able to watch episodes 2 and 3 with Cris until the weekend. But as soon as we watch episodes 2 and 3 together, Cris and I are going to come here and do a chat about it, kind of like we did the Rings of Power finale. We're going to talk about the first 3 episodes and see what she thinks about that first story block because the cliffhanger ending they gave us was very well done. Anyway, see you later. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, support if you can. Memberships, super chats, super stickers, all those things. See ya!